Welcome everyone to the 159th edition of the Nuthouse podcast, brought to you by boxsam.com. I'm your host Andy Patterson. With me today I've got Steve Wellens, Adam Smith doing some blending again, Alex Morris and a very sick Paul Webb, who many of his listeners will probably hopefully drops dead tonight. Anyway, last night was all about the heavyweights in and out of the ring. David Haye returns to action, Tyson Fury making waves out of the ring, then maybe a wee bit in it as well. Charles Martin picks up a fake title, and Wilder explodes a chilling right hand on Arthur Spilka to defend his fake title. Now, just very briefly, guys, just before we do touch upon the upper echelon of the division, I also want to touch very briefly on the Martin Glasgow fight. Now, not really much we can really say about it, other than the fact is, that Martin was probably the aggressive of the two. It was quite a cautious start. Then Glasgow threw a right hand, I think it was the third round, and I think he then went to roll under Martin's counter shot and twisted his right knee, probably even popping his cruciate ligament. So bizarre ending. Martin a little bit disappointed. Maybe it's a gypsy's curse on the IBF belt by Tyson Fury. Who knows? But we do know that Tyson Fury was in his element last night. Life and soul of the party. And according to some onlookers, he was enjoying himself out the ring and in it as well with Deontay Wilder would actually even do Kurt Ward and David Lee. But right up there, Straza actually seen Tyson Fury just going to act in the WWE antics there last night. But just very briefly, Alex, I know you watched the fight about 10 minutes ago there, Martin Glasgow. Not much we can take of it, mate, but this is the first time I've ever seen Martin before. What do you think of the guy?
Yeah, I think I saw him. Is he the one that fought Tom Dallas? I think it was like last year or something.
Yep.
Yeah. Tom Dallas went over there. I remember that. I saw that fight, and obviously, he knocked him out, and it's Tom Dallas, and that's pretty much the only other fighter that I've seen of Charles Martin's. I wasn't really expecting much. It was, quite a shock really to think that was the bookies pretty much had that even. I mean, I don't rate Glasgow particularly highly, but he certainly got the experience despite all of his, robberies and such. And I think maybe karma came back and bit him in the arse, and it certainly bit main events as well, who were, obviously being very shrewd in the first place for getting that title fight, getting it for Glasgow, getting available and getting the belt strip from Fury. They lobbied hard for that situation, and they ducked the Wilder fight. I think that was the case. They were planning to have that fight before, or was it the Vlad fight they were trying to have? He was like lined up, I can't remember, but Glasgow seemed to have been lined up for various fights at various points, but they went the easiest route, and can't really blame them.
Was Glasgow not going to fight Wilder at one point?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. They were in negotiations, and obviously Fury pulled the big upset, and they think, well, we can, we're mandatory for the IBF. Let's fucking this campaign for that belt, and they obviously got it, but in the end, it came back and really bit them in the arse. And it's no one's fault, I guess. It was just a freak accident. It's very, very nasty. When they zoomed in on the knee injury, it was obviously a very nasty twist that they pulled onto it. But I'm trying to think of a way to analyze that fight, but there really isn't a way. I mean, we saw 2.5 rounds and nothing really significant happened. Neither man showed any sort of anything spectacular or anything you can take away from it and go, oh yeah, this, he might be able to fight Wilder, he might be able to fight Fury and might stand a chance. You just think, well, that's just two fringed, gatekeeper level sort of heavyweights fighting for a belt, and it's almost depressing really, but it is what it is, I suppose.
Yeah, I think the only way we could really break it down, Steve, is I didn't see any head move from Glasgow for like the eight or so minutes the fight lasted. I think he tried desperately to try and get inside, but Martin was probably quite patient. He was quite happy to box at mid distance, I suppose. I mean, he was the bigger fighter that had the longer reach, I suppose. And if the fight did go on, you could probably see maybe Martin just pick up the points, but we'll never know. But that's just taking that from like the 2 and a bit rounds that we saw of it anyway.
Well, this is the problem. I had a very admirable attempt from you two guys to try and assess this fight. I mean, what exactly did we see? It was the main opportunity for me to really have a look at Charles Martin and to find out who is Charles Martin, how does he fight, is he a skillful guy, is he tough, can he punch, has he got stamina? I was hoping we'd go a good few rounds because Glasgow, he's not great, he's decent. it shouldn't have been a world title fight at all. We all know about this, but nobody knows about Martin. 90% of fans didn't know about him before. We don't know about him afterwards. Now he's supposedly a world champion. What a bizarre situation. Someone holds a supposed world title, and we just know absolutely nothing about him. It's just so strange. We need to see him in against somebody decent. I'd say all the contenders and the pretenders will be pushing this direction now and saying, this Charles Martin, I fancy a crack at him. Could be decent, could be a really good fighter, but this was the opportunity to sit down and have a good look at him. And the way the fight ended, we just don't know. There's a few fights of him on YouTube. He seems okay. He fought Dallas, like Alex said. There's a few camcorder jobs in sort of dimly lit leisure halls over in America we can look at, and he looks okay. But for this guy to be the champion of the world, a belt holder, it's really weird. We need to see more from Martin. I couldn't really gauge anything from it, to be honest.
Paul, adding briefly on that fight.
I thought Martin was, I mean, he looked, from what we saw of it, he looked okay. I mean, he seemed to put his shots together fairly well, but I mean, it wasn't really a fight, was it? I mean, he even looked quite disappointed when it ended. He didn't sort of initially start running around celebrating. He sort of watched as the fight was counted, and the ref sort of gave him about 2 or 3 times, say, are you sure you want to stop? Are you sure you can't continue? And he just didn't want to know. And, you know, Martin's got a belt, but is he a top 10 heavyweight? No, I don't think so. And the fact that we have a world champion who you wouldn't put in, I don't know what you guys think, but I wouldn't put him in my top 10. Top 15, I don't know. I mean, that is the situation that we found ourselves in. And Kathy Duver forced a situation which has caused Fury to pretty much lose his belt, and then be fought over between 2 guys who aren't world level. Analysing the fight itself, like I say, we didn't see enough of it, but what we did see was Martin was clearly more likely to win. Like I said, he just looked like he was boxing better, but the injury obviously made a big difference to the fight. But we have a really, probably, I sort of want to say, the weakest heavyweight champion since John Ruiz was last champion. But I think that's a knock on John Ruiz. I mean, he was a weak champion in a time of not brilliant champions. Charles Martin could end up being a weak champion in a elongated time of poor champions.
Just looking at the rankings, actually, IBF, Klitschko's ranked number 3, number 2 not rated, Glasgow was number 1, so you just wonder what's going to happen there. This could be Wilder's next opponent, unification fight or whatever. Or Klitschko could get slotted in there for number 1 mandatory shot.
It was absolute rubbish, wasn't it? Charles Martin, world champion. I mean, I know some people on here don't 100% always agree with BoxRec, but he's rated 12 in the US and I think 41 or 43 in the world. I've never heard of him. It was shite. It's absolute rubbish. That injury, by the way, looked pretty naughty to me. Obviously a bit of a freak accident, but you know, looked pretty damn serious. And I'm surprised that with the injury, he's actually took himself out of the ring and back to the locker room. To be fair, but yeah, Charles Martin, he just looked pregnant to me. It looked like just a pregnant big guy. He talks quite a good game, to be fair. In his interview, he was quite honest, happy-go-lucky. We'll probably see him in against Wilder, but incidents and fights like that just make me question why I follow the sport and why I get up why I set my alarm for 3:20 on a cold morning in January.
This is the worry that I've got, is that now that Martin has got that belt, Wilder now has this out from the Povetkin fight. You know, he's obviously mandated to fight Povetkin next. He was giving it the big one after the fight, saying, "Yeah, I'm definitely going to be fighting Povetkin next. I'm not going to be dodging him." But the one out he's got several outs. He either bins the belt, or he applies for unification, and that's the potential that he's got there. And either way, I think that he's probably going to end up with the IBF belt if he goes that route, because as poor as Wilder did look last night, I'm sure we'll move on to that fight in a minute. As poor as he looked, he still probably chins Charles Martin.
Well, that is a good time to move on to that fight, actually, because I mentioned it this morning. Now, obviously, we're talking about a potential out for Wilder here if he goes for the Charles Martin unification fight, which apparently does take precedence sometimes. But it's down to actually individual boards or the commission bodies to actually decide if they're actually going to veto the mandatory. But Wilder last night, I first off on the finish, it was fucking chilling actually. Right hand right to the chin. It was just beautifully timed actually. You can't really fault that. Still his balance is still well off. I watched a video actually with him about 2 weeks ago. He was actually in a car park with fucking Lennox Lewis, actually working on his jab and his foot movement. So fucking work still required there. But some say I've seen some comments that Spilka actually was winning this fight. I didn't exactly score it, but I felt that maybe the turning point of the fight was the fourth round when Wilder started kind of landing the right hand, and then just as the fight wore on, he was getting that right hand in more often. But then I think there was a final stand by Spilka, but was it round 8? I think it was. But nothing he could do. I mean, he brought all that pavement dancing experience from his hooligan days and stuff, but that was really all he really managed to do. I mean, his hooks and his wide shots and stuff like that, they were easily kind of like blocked off from Wilder at times. He's still wide open down the middle. As I say, his balance is still well off. He's like a Bambi on ice at times. So,
Andy, I had it. I had it 4-4 going into the ninth, but as you said, the fourth round I thought was significant, and I thought that would have changed it. But then I gave Spilka the fifth round because Wilder didn't capitalise on it. I do struggle to watch Wilder. He's like ganglion and awkward. He didn't throw enough in the first 3 rounds, hence why I gave those to Spilka. Spilka was plodding, not the fastest. Still got through with some left hands. I just still think Wilder's an accident waiting to happen. I really do, and I'm going to continue with my policy of backing him to lose via knockout, regardless of the opponent. Because when he gets in with someone half decent, and maybe Spilka was 40% decent, when he gets in up to the next mini notch up from Spilka, then I just think he's going to get chinned at some point, and I think it'll definitely be this year. It was a great shot.
Tremendous shot, actually. It was a fucking great shot. Steve, were you impressed with Wilder last night?
I'm a bit like Adam, actually. I keep thinking Wilder's going to get beaten, but the level of opposition it's really, really weak. It's indicative of the heavyweight division at the moment. First of all, it was a great knockout. Clear power, we all know that, but who's he fighting? There's just no names there at all. The Stavern win was a decent win, good win. Not an outstanding win, though. He showed diversity in his output, and he's just a belt holder, Wilder. He really needs to step it up, and I felt that the referee wasn't too quick to call it off either, especially considering Spilka's neck snapped back, and I thought there was a genuine danger for a while whether this guy was walking towards a bright light, and I'm not even saying that frivolously. I mean, it really wasn't a concern. The referee was sort of laboured over the top of him, enjoying his moment in the spotlight. I mean, you say one thing about the British referees, they would have had the ambulance in like a shot, because there was clear Spilka was not going to be walking of his own volition over the next few seconds. But putting that aside, I just hope Wilder fights Povetkin. We're anticipating the excuses. We're anticipating the Russians to win the bid. Will Wilder go over to Russia? Will he say he wants a unification? Will he drop the belt? Please, for the sake of the sport, I'm starting to get a bit emotional here, but he really just needs to fight. He just needs to fight Povetkin, though. Seriously, we need to see him in a proper fight. And if Wilder wins that, then the landscape changes slightly, because that's a hugely credible victory against a credible opponent. And at the moment, he's just had it too soft, and he's desperately overdue a step up. And I think two judges had it 77-75 to Wilder at the point of the stoppage. There's only a couple of points in it, which is a worry, because Spilka's just not great at all. Will Wilder perform better when he fights the like of Povetkin? Possibly. Will he show greater athleticism, greater footwork? He's a lot bigger than Povetkin. Povetkin's a very small guy, but he's never fought anyone on this level. And it would be a step up for a WBC champion. He needs to be fighting better opponents, and the time has come. The excuses are over. He's got to step up in some shape or form. And a unification fight, even with the tagline unification with Charles Martin, is not a step up.
100% agree with you, mate. I mean, seriously, I said it today. There's absolutely no excuses. I mean, the WBC commented that he'd asked for a mandatory as a warm up for Povetkin. He's got to step forward now and fucking take it. And it's like you. I'm getting a wee bit emotional with this, but see this. I'm begging. I'm just putting the word out there. Please, fucking please, Golovkin, Canelo, Ward, Kovalev, Stevenson, and these two guys, fucking please, I'm begging you, just get in the fucking ring and fight. Forget about the politics for a change. We don't give a fuck about how much you're earning either. Just get in the ring and make it happen and fucking fight once and for all. And you say fucking Wilder badly, his ass needs a bad step up. I mean, Stavern was what, 2 years ago? No, was it a year ago?
It was a year ago today.
year ago. Who's he fought since? You say many people would say Spilker was what, overrated, maybe a sea-level operator. As I say, a bit of a pavement dancer because he's hooligan days, but come on, man, Povetkin next, please, just make it fucking happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's just what I'm noticing with Wilder as well is that he's obviously got that power. No one can really deny the power, but the bigger the opposition that he's fighting, and I use that term very loosely because it isn't really that much of a step up. I mean, it's a step up from the days of what he was fighting before he fought Stavern, the taxi drivers, the fat fucking horrible wasters, and Jason Gavins of the world that were just getting bowled over so easily. But you'll notice that now that he's fighting semi-credible opponents, and again, I use that term very loosely, he's starting to go more rounds with them. He's starting to find it more difficult to actually land that power, and he's got all the power in the world. He's got fucking nuclear bombs in that right hand of his, but he finds it harder to land. And the further he steps up and the better the opposition, he's just not going to be able to land it. And I think that people saying that Wilder can spark out Fury, spark out Joshua, spark out Haye, spark out Vlad, yeah, he could, but is he going to land? And I don't think so. You see the likes of the trouble Spilker gave him last night. I mean, yeah, he was a southpaw. He was being very awkward at times, and but he just made him miss. So he just looked so amateurish. He looked just embarrassing at times. And I think I had Spilker up by a point. I think at the time of the stoppage, and he could have very well gone on and caused the upset. It's just this is Spilker we're talking about. He's not very good. Mike Mollo, fucking, how many times has he been down for God's sake? And it took that one hellacious shot for Wilder, and that was a brilliant shot. No knocking the knockout. That's probably a very early and strong contender. Exactly, already a very strong contender for knockout of the year. But you got to be worried that if he's just relying on that power, because again, someone better is just going to completely take that away from him. And you can't pick fights and survive a career based entirely on being able to chin anyone you want from a lucky punch. And ultimately, it would be a lucky punch because Wilder's simply not good enough to land it cleanly on a talented boxer, like Fury or Vlad.
We've got to hope that WBC start making noises in the next couple of weeks, about this mandatory defence with Povetkin. But just watch. I'd fucking bet a good bit of money on it that Wilder starts in the next couple of weeks as well, mentioning drug testing, which is probably fucking, fair point because we all know what's happening in Russia just now. Wouldn't it be so, surprising? Many people are saying that Povetkin is rejuvenated. As a part of that rejuvenation, is it because there's substances involved here? We just don't know. So I can see his point.
Do you think Wilder himself, he genuinely seems to want the fight? I mean, are they going to try and rein him in from beyond the scenes and try and feed him these lines? I mean, where is this whole thing going to come from? Because he seems to me like a guy who's like, yeah, I'm fighting him, let's bring it on. I mean, are they where's it going to end,
Well, maybe we're just being too cynical about it. Maybe we're just, getting, this is me saying this, obviously, but maybe we are being cynical. Maybe he will fight him, and maybe that will happen. But again, from what we've seen and all the bullshit that we saw last year, and already some of the bullshit we're hearing at the start of the year, people ducking fights, you just think it's not going to happen.
Can I just say about Wilder's power? Cracking shot last night, and obviously the one punch, if it lands perfectly like that, anyone's going to sleep. But Eric Molina, Dupapas, or whatever his frigging name was, Spilker, who's been down, a couple of times in a fight previously, they've all gone into the second half of the fight. Is his power, or probably the question is his accuracy and output all that? I think not.
The power's all that. It's just the ability to get it there isn't all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
As Andy clearly said, it took Wilder till the fourth round to land any punch of significance. Any punch. This is the home fighter. He's got all the advantages. Speed, power, he's bigger, he's the champion, he's confident. It's took him till the fourth round to land a punch.
Great to see. Spilker had some fucking backing in that centre there last night, actually. But more at the point, Wilder against Fury, I mean, obviously there was a bit of chat in the ring afterwards and stuff. a good bit of chat, but I think Wilder actually won. If you want, some people kind of look at weigh-ins and stuff like that and try and gauge who's going to win it and stuff like that. Got to give round one to Wilder last night for saying he's going to give Tyson. He's going to baptise Tyson Fury. I really think we chuckled to myself about that one, but
Yeah,
Fury went overboard with the WWE antics. Like I could see Kurt and Dave Lee just sitting their members out and stuff like that, saying, "Go on, Tyson." That remembers me from the Royal Rumble 19.
It's just so contrived, when people like David Haye do it, for example, and others. There's plenty of others. It looks more real, but when Fury does it, even at press conferences, it just looks forced and practiced. We've often said some of the lines he said are practiced. I thought Wilder dealt with it very well last night, to be honest. Wilder was the one that stood up and said, "I ain't backing down," kind of thing. And then Lou DiBella's chasing Fury around the ring as he's trying to get undressed. It was funny. But it always just feels contrived with me with Fury.
It is contrived though, like you say. I think it is. He's doing it on purpose, and he's doing it to get a reaction and doing it to get his name out there. And it is embarrassing very often, but because he doesn't have that sort of the charisma and the eloquence of when Haye does it, or when others do it like that. Fucking Conor McGregor from the UFC does it as well, and all the stupid antics, but. Fury just seems, genuinely a bit mental, and I think, and a bit unstable, and I think that sort of plays into it being very erratic and very, just a bit crude and cringe to watch at times. He just lets his mind sort of take over, and he just goes, "Well, I'm going to fucking strip naked here and sort of wave my cock about." That's just what you expect of him.
Talking of cocks, moving on. Now, we've been discussing this new segment, and we've not really did a dry run with it, so we're going to try and do it live just now and stuff. So we'll see how it goes. It's called the positive round. Now, as you know, people moan about us being absolutely negative all the time and stuff like that. Apparently, it's perceived that we're negative every single minute of every single podcast that we do. So we're bringing some positivity back to it. Now, nothing more positive than having former undisputed lineal cruiserweight world champion and former Panamanian super heavyweight world champion David Haye, big punching David Haye back in action against the big punching Aussie Mark Morier. 16,000, I believe, there or thereabouts, hardcore boxing fans crammed into the O2 Arena to see, the remaking of greatness. Now, I'm going to bring in Alex here, who's going to discuss Mark Morier in great detail. As to why that this gentleman was actually ranked 10th in the world, who was actually on his march the way to pick up the world heavyweight title, and until he ran into the great hope of the heavyweight division, Mr. David Haye.
Future Hall of Famer, I think, David Haye.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it goes without question, considering what he's done. Beat Mormick, he beat Audley Harrison. I mean, Audley Harrison, Olympic gold medalist, two-time prizefighter champion, unified prizefighter champion. I mean, you can't beat that. But Alex, will you take it away, mate, on Mark Morier first?
Yeah, I think that people are obviously being a bit harsh on Morier. I've done some research on the man, and you've really got to look at it's just like a rags to riches tale with Mark Morier. It's a real story of triumph over his early setbacks. It's just like a Rocky film almost. I mean, just to talk of his achievements, he won the 2004 Australian Fight of the Year against a debutant in future world title challenger Alex Leopai. I mean, that's already one of his early achievements, which was just, an excellent thing. And that was obviously a draw, that fight. It was a very unfortunate setback for him. He had another draw and another KO loss, but, this mighty Australian warrior, he realised that setbacks paved the way for comebacks. So he scored some excellent KOs over Robert Cousa and Dominique Alexander, which led Morier to win his first title, the esteemed vacant WBC Asian Boxing Council Continental Heavyweight title. What soon followed after that was a relentless string of knockouts, and he offered us and all of his fans a fine geography lesson. We had Bosnians, Kosovans, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo's finest all fell to Mark Morier. After consecutive knockouts and excellent wins, Mark had his chance at a world title, the World Boxing Union German version. sanctioned a bout between Morier and Adnan Buharaligia for their vacant strap, and Mark Morier finished the bout in 6 rounds to claim his first world title. He continued
Unified.
Oh yeah, this is it. He continued to make history and unify. He unified this belt with the esteemed World Boxing Foundation, and is doing so in a grueling 12-round tussle against a fighter with 41 fights, a record of 20-21, Ivica Perkovic. Mark walked away with a unanimous decision and as an undisputed champion. The so-called king of the division, Vladimir Klitschko, never once uttered Demori's name during this reign, and I think we can attribute that to absolute fear. Fast forward to the present day, and our hero gets his amazing shot against the future Hall of Famer, the legendary David Haye, and knowing that to become a legend himself, he must beat a legend, but it was not to be on the night. On a case of horrific bad luck that our hero suffered, he accidentally smashed his head into Haye's fists about 4 or 5 times, rendering himself unconscious. It was a sad end for Morier, of course, but I have no doubt that he'll continue to be a threat to the true elite of the division, and he'll come back strong.
Alex,
I'm going to go
you've
out on a
done
limb. I'm going to go on a limb here.
an excellent job.
I'm going to go on a limb here and say that Haye will never ever offer Morier a rematch, because let's face it, Haye knew he got lucky with those fluke punches.
Yeah, it was right around about the tempo and stuff. Really, I think
Alex,
the problem
never
I've got
mind
here.
the consequence. Has he ever fought a prison cantinian?
I don't think that
There's
they
no
allowed,
heavyweights there.
they never allowed him in the country, because I just think that Morier would have obviously ruined any future prospect of their great pedigree.
Steve, I think the biggest problem facing Morier last night. I mean, we all know about his pedigree. He's great amateur back in the day. He failed at the last hurdle to get on the Olympic team, but just the fact that he was facing a legit 230-pound heavyweight. Coming back from career-threatening injuries. He's became the
Multiple world
Bionic Man.
champion, Mark Morier.
Multiple world titles. He's multiple injuries. How he continued fighting through the pain. He had that Kaneko tape on his back to fight through the back strain he had. David Haye is back, baby.
Yeah, exactly. I think Alex has got it all wrong. He's picking up Morier here, but he doesn't realise the one thing. It was the main man who was in the other corner, which is David Haye. And I'm going to actually say, Andy, this was the new improved David Haye, who's going to be on Babe Station next with those little nice implanted boobs that he was in sporting on the night. I was very impressed with those. Reminded me a little bit of the old Jedi warrior, Gerald Nobles.
Look like a fucking pair of
Value.
Foster. They look like a pair of Foster.
Lovely pair.
They look like a pair of Foster tits, don't they?
Lovely little pair for David. But seriously though, I mean, you look at the facts. We all saw it on the telly ourselves last night. Haye sold an absolute pile of tickets. There was a great crowd, great atmosphere, free TV. Dave is the channel of comedy, but this fight was no joke. This was a serious fight. Paul Dempsey's back on TV. BJ Flores dusted off his best suit. Haye said before the fight, Andy, that he wanted to get back on free TV. He wasn't bothered about being on pay-per-view. If pay-per-view had been offered to this guy, right, he's the type of guy that would have said, no thanks, I'm a man of the people. I don't want to be on pay-per-view. I want to be on free TV. Haye's been spending his time away from the ring, engaging in many enterprising endeavours, including a guest appearance at the Telford Bed Show. But it was Morier who was sleeping last night after 2 minutes. Let me tell you, this wasn't about the payday. This was about the heyday. Dave's back.
Paul, I mean...
Right. I'm going to bring
Adam,
something forward, Amanda.
Say again, mate?
I'm going to try and... this idea that I started a few days ago that's been hijacked and remoulded, although Alex and Steve's delivery has been superb, and I can't fault it, it's going to come across like we're taking the mickey. I was going to be positive and say it's absolutely, as Steve's alluded to it, remarkable that they sold whatever it was, over 10,000, let's just say, over 10,000.
It's excellent for the sport, mate. I think that I'm ecstatic that they managed to sell 16,000, 15,000 tickets or whatever it was to see a man get knocked unconscious and nearly put in a coma. I am fucking thrilled for that.
it just goes to show as well that you don't need to be on Sky and be with Eddie Hearn in order to sell tickets and stuff like that, or need the Sky hype and promotion and that. Dave's done this all social media
Dave's
interviews
done it
on
with Dave.
free TV. He did it on Dave, man. I mean, come on, you got to hand it to the guy. It's going to be sooner or later. We're going to have more free boxing. David Hayes going to be facing off. He likes to. Your absolute best
Michael
heavyweights
Sprott.
you can get. Well, I wouldn't say Michael Sprott. You'd probably get Lucas Brown across. We know what kind of quality he's got. Kubrat Pulev, he could be a great opponent. I wouldn't mind seeing the Povetkin fight, but Leeds must. It's politics involved there first. Ustinov would be a great fight. He's got great footwork. Would give David Hay numerous problems. Andy Ruiz has got himself in the greatest shape of his life. He's going to be about a 12-pack just now. Absolutely tremendous to see. Joseph Parker doesn't stand a chance with David Hay and his power. And Bryant Jennings, Fraser Kendo, Shannon Briggs. Let's go, champ, because David Hay is ready to go.
The undercard was absolute ramble, as we said and predicted, and the fight was a farce. Really, it was clear to me.
Well, hold on.
Whoa!
You're being a bit
This is the
negative
positive
there.
round you're talking about here, man.
It was.
It's not very positive, Adam.
It didn't even last a round. It was. I think Haye landed a body shot within 15 or 20 seconds, and Morier looked up as if to say, "I don't like that. Don't like any of it." I don't even think he landed a punch. It was a good punch to finish it. But what's David Hay learnt from that? He needs rounds. He needs to test out
David
the
Hayes
shoulder.
learned from that there's fucking a whole country full of absolute fucking mugs who will watch him fight any absolute shite that he puts on in front of them.
He couldn't contain himself any longer.
He could have fought a bag of dog shite, a literal bag of dog shite. They could have held it up with a fucking fishing rod in front of him, and he could have punched it and sprayed dog shit all over the crowd, front row, and the commentary team, and they would have still praised him as being a fucking legend. And they would have still bought more tickets to see his next fucking fight, where he punches a bag of spunk and then just sprays everyone with that. It's fucking horrific.
I have to say, there's nothing quite like the feeling of, after dragging myself back into work this morning, walking through the door to be met with, what was that last night? As a boxing fan, you're the face of it to the casuals, who blame you because you mentioned there was a fight on tonight that they made an effort to sit down and watch. Bless Dave, dedicating 2 hours of their schedule for a fight that lasted 2 minutes.
Well, at least they kept the comedy going last night.
Well, I was going to say they really did.
That's another one of my lines that's been stolen.
Oh, here we go. Everything's copyright from Adam. But
What do you think about Dave? What do you think about Dave, though, Paul? The fact that we got to 10:15 and we had like 2 minutes of boxing out of the 75 minutes before Tony Dodson came on.
It just didn't seem to make any sense. Like, for me, I thought they were going to go for an hour. I thought it would be a quick 10-15 minute build up because there was no studio. I thought it'd be a couple of quick, nice little VTs, get into the main event, interview Haye afterwards, and then see you later. Thanks, guys. I didn't think they were going to show any of the undercard, and I didn't care because the undercard was embarrassingly awful. The one fight they did choose to show, I mean, what was the point? And I thought that would just be it, but instead we got this quite weird sort of like drawn out thing, and everyone last night was praising Paul Dempsey as being like the Lionel Messi of boxing commentary, but the interview in the ring with Haye afterwards went on for about 40 minutes. I was just sat listening
twice.
Yeah, I was listening to. I mean, even the first time around, I was like, "Well, this is taking a long time," and I don't know. It just, the coverage. I thought that Dave did a fairly decent job of what they had, which was minimal. They didn't spend any money on it. They brought in BJ Flores, who is just an embarrassment. I mean, whenever the guy, whenever he looks at the camera, and just that weird sort of stare at it with his painted on hair, and his massive silver suit, I didn't really get that, but I thought they could have done a better job. Instead, we were treated to about 20 minutes of DJ, Ricky and Melvin because Dave had nothing else to film. As always, David Haye is never the quickest out of the dressing room anyway, so if you tell him to be in the ring at 9:30, he'll be there for 10. It didn't need that. I mean, when ITV show like a Frampton fight, they go live at 9:45 and they're off the air by 11, like clockwork. And I think that's what Dave, if they get another chance to do a David Haye fight, which they won't, I think that's what they should have done. I think it was a gross failure from Sky's point of view, because purely from a commercial point of view, they had a guy fighting in a sold-out arena against someone who more than likely wants to fight Anthony Joshua, and they decided to pass on it. I think the viewing figures would have been very high last night. I think it was sort of trending everywhere, and a lot of people were talking about it. But it's just a shame again when boxing is thrown in the sort of the shop window, as it were, when a lot of people are watching it who don't normally. They sat and watched one guy who, and everyone that's saying he didn't throw a punch, it's just not true. Morier did. I mean, the first 15, 20 seconds, he looked like, okay, I'm going to have a go at this. And then he got hit with that body shot, and he was like, oh dear. And then the knockout, I mean, it comes from a counter punch where Morier throws that from his hip, slow left-hand jab, and he just almost gets his head taken off. And I put it in the fight report I did for it. Matches like this, I get why they exist. I get why we have them. But these are the kind of fights that get fighters seriously hurt. I mean, he ended up in hospital with a concussion, but there is no way that he was anywhere near the level of David Haye, even 3 years out, 5 years out, 10 years out, just because he has a fake. And this is where the WBA are to blame, because if he wasn't the top 10 with the WBA, he wouldn't have got the fight. But the WBA somehow decided that that man was the 10th best heavyweight in the world. I mean, it's just beyond laughable. And like I said, Haye, has he still got it? I don't know. He looked impressive. His timing looked good, and his power, which he's always had, looked decent. I actually don't mind him being slightly heavier, because I don't think that being quick and darty using his speed is going to be useful against sort of the current giant heavyweights. But, what did we learn from that, really?
I think you learned nothing from that last night. Simple fact is, Haye's been in the ring for 3 years. He needs to be back out again ASAP.
I don't even think that's an excuse. I don't even think that's an excuse. I've heard a lot of people saying that, he's out of the ring for 3.5 years, it's fine. I mean, Mark Morier was absolute shite. I mean, just complete trash. I mean, BoxRec, I think, didn't even have him in the top 100. BoxRec rankings, they're not perfect, but you get a general idea of how good someone is from them. And not even being in the top 100 is obviously a very damning figure. You're telling me that Haye could not have come back after 3.5 years and fought someone slightly better, someone that would have given him, an excuse to shake the ring rust off, an excuse to actually, exercise a bit and learn what he needs to do again. Because let's be fair, he's not exactly got the most experienced record on him. He's not even had 30 fights yet, for God's sake, and most of those fights are fucking embarrassing blowouts as it is, and he's wanting to chuck in another one against a fucking waster. I mean, and not only that, I think when you're charging up to 1,200 quid to sit ringside to this fight, I think you owe people a fucking semi-competitive fight. Even if it
he
is
even spoke about the prices in the interview. He said people have paid 1,200 quid.
Yeah, he's laughing his ass off.
About it.
He reminded me of fucking a shoddy, sort of second-rate Mike Tyson versus Peter McNeely. It was that sort of just absolute farce where they build it up as this guy with a half-decent looking record coming back, and people, fucking idiots, just lap it up, completely lap it up. Waiting just to see the star come back and score an easy knockout, and that's what it was. And it's it's just embarrassing. I think that if you're going to pay for it, then fair enough, it's your fucking money. But Jesus Christ, man, I think that people deserve at least more competitive fights, and it just proves to me that if people are willing to pay for shit, they're just going to keep getting shit.
Do you know what I think they might have done here, though? Seriously, we've had the joint promotion with O2. We've had the No Sky or Box Nation route. So for people like David A, George Groves, Carl Frampton, Chris Eubank, who are like to do things their own way, will draw a crowd in London, including Frampton. Maybe they've set some sort of blueprint to do similar in the future, whether that be with ITV, Dave, or someone else. I don't know. What do you think about
that? Do you think, Paul?
Well, there's no future for people boxing on Dave. I mean, you have to remember that you know, Haye's team approached Dave, not the other way around, the money that would have been offered from Dave, if at all, would have been minute. I think from a production point of view, they did a decent job, but you know, boxers don't want to be on these channels. Boxers only end up on channels like that because they have no other options elsewhere. If Sky Sports had wanted that fight, it would have been on there. If Box Nation maybe had wanted it, then they might have gone that route. They took the Dave option because they were very limited, because as most people thought, it was a total mismatch and a bit of a non-event. Also, how can you commit your schedule to a man who has a history of pulling out fights so frequently? And for the likes of Frampton, Eubank, etc., no, they won't want to be fighting on Dave. They'll fight on, you know, the channels that allow. If Frampton wins the quick fight, Frampton will be a Sky Fighter again, regardless of what Hearn wants to do. I think with Eubank, you know, he's back on Channel 5 now at the shopping centre, so he seems quite content to be there. But for
I think
others,
more significant than the TV channel is the O2. You know, with the joint promotion, I've never seen a venue promote a fight so much. Even had the ring post last night.
They were unbelievable. The whole build up to it, they pushed, and it was to the point where I don't know whether they had some sort of commercial agreement with, excuse me, with Haye's people. But if I was Matchroom, or if I was any of the promoter that puts an event on at the O2, I'd probably be sat there going, well, why don't they push my event so hard then? Because they really did. They promoted.
Yeah, but they'll be getting a cut though. They'll be getting a cut.
Well, that's what I mean. So that's what I mean. Maybe that this is a thing that promoters should probably look at certain venues, because pretty much every act or band or whoever that performed at the O2 in the last 2 months was there with a card up saying Hayeday, X amount of days left. All the artists that performed there put a tweet out saying, I can't wait for this. You had various celebrities, you know, Rio Ferdinand, Idris Elba, etc., promoting the fight from that side. And obviously they're either being paid to do it or they're getting their freebies out of it, but it worked for both sides. The O2 got a full arena to sell lots of merchandise and lots of drinks to, and Haye got a full arena to pocket lots of cash from. So it seems to make total sense, and the O2 seems to work in a very different way to other arenas. It's its own little sort of mini world, and I can understand why so many promoters want to get in there, and it has proved difficult to sell. Unless you're an Anthony Joshua or as you found out David Haye, you can't just guarantee you're going to sell the O2 out. This fight didn't sell the O2 out, and I think they must have comped hundreds and hundreds of tickets, but it did sell a huge amount, and you have to say fair play to that.
Well, on that, since Haye's got such a command over, you know, over the O2, as from what we've seen at least, you know, there may have been some sort of backdoor dealings or whatever, but he's got this incredible fan base and managed to sell it out, and he's still this star name. Does this make negotiations with, obviously, you know, the end result is the Joshua fight? Is this going to make the negotiations a lot harder with Hearn? Because, you know, I'm pretty sure that Hearn's ego is, you know, always been a bit of a stumbling block in a lot of negotiations, and Haye's ego isn't exactly fucking you know, humble to begin with, is it? So is this going to make it incredibly difficult to negotiate the fight, even if you know, Hearn even wants that fight at the moment? Because, you know, I don't think that he particularly wants to risk his cash cow.
I don't think it will happen this year. I think someone asked a question. I think someone asked a question a couple of weeks back with a Twitter question, but I would probably just want to leave that just now, because you just know we're going to get hit with the fucking fanboys for the Haye side, and then the Matchroom boys are going to be, and then Hearn's going to be insufferable with his bullshit as well. So,
well, Andy, before we move on, I've got a good question. Did we see a heavyweight last night that Anthony Joshua would not beat tomorrow?
We don't know. It says we don't even learn nothing off those 2.5 minutes that Haye was in the ring there last night. What we need to see, as I say, we need to see him out regularly, fighting at least maybe 3-4 times this year, and then if we get to September or whatever, and he's no injuries, he's in the top 5 or whatever, picked up some points somewhere, and then we can maybe talk about it. But I really think, with the way the titles are going in the heavyweight division just now, you know, you've got the Panamanians now talking about releasing a video about Tyson Fury's conduct and attitude and stuff. They wouldn't be surprised if they fucking try and strip him and stuff like that. So wouldn't be surprised either if Joshua finds himself in a vacant title shot at some point, and then maybe make the Haye fight early next year. But, you know, you just know Haye Joshua, when you get Eddie Hearn's gums on about that fucking prospect of that fight, he's going to end up talking about fucking Wembley, so...
Well, Andy, where would you chuck him next then? Because I put it up in the chat there, that question from Rory Paddock on Facebook, which was quite a good one. He says, if we say David Haye has 5 fights left, what route would you guide him down, and what opponents would you map out for him? I mean, did the Morier fight that bad that he's going to have another opponent of a slightly higher level, or is he ready to go straight in? I mean, what the next 5 fights, what do you think?
Who's better than, okay, say he faces off against Chagayev, Brown winner. Any of those two better than Mark Demori?
It's minimal, if so.
So you'd be looking at...
Of course they're better. No, of course they're better than Mark Demori. That's...
Okay.
Mark Demori is fucking Eubank.
This wasn't what you were saying about 10 minutes ago, Ali.
What about Pulev? I would like to see that fight. Pulev would, okay, he's had 1 victory since the Klitschko knockout, pretty bad, but, he's got a decent enough jab. He's got the height. He's got the same height as Haye. So
Pulev, did you say?
Yeah.
Pulev would be a good one in the next couple of fights. Obviously, I'm being a bit facetious about Brown and Chagayev, but Morier is real, the depths. But again, Lucas Brown, I tell you what, he's pretty terrible. And Chagayev, I don't even know what he's still doing fighting. So they would be a step up from Morier, but the type of level that he needs to be moving up to get towards the Furies and the Klitschkos or the Joshuas even, that he
He won't. That's the issue. He won't want to fight them because, one, if he's not got, but he's promoting himself, so he has to pay these guys. He's not going to want to pay them anything when he doesn't have to. He could fight absolute wasters for the next 4 fights if he is going to, say he had 5 fights with the end result being Joshua Fury. For absolute wasters, just to build his profile, pocket as much cash as he can, and it won't make a blind bit of difference. He's not going to make a risky fight.
Sorry, Alex.
Sorry, mate. You carry on.
I think he's put himself in a very strong position because at the end of the day, he is a former world champion. His last performance before he retired was an impressive one, and he won again Saturday. He's shown that he brings a big commercial side to any particular big fight, and if I was one of the big guys in the division, I'd really want that fight because I think it would be huge. I think for him to fight Joshua, a world title doesn't need to be on the line. I don't think it matters. I think it's one of those fights where Hearn would give the speech about the belts aren't important. It'd be better, but I just don't think they necessarily have to go that route. I don't see Haye, if again he's forced onto an obscure channel, or an obscure channel in terms of sporting terms, will bring over, like you say, a Pulev or someone of that ilk, a Hellenius, etc. Just because I don't think he'll pay them. A sold-out arena will generate a decent amount of money, but obviously we all know the money really isn't about TV and having that TV backing. If Sky turn around to Matchroom and say they want to pick up Haye's next fight, and can they work out something, then it is possible. But I think he doesn't need 3 or 4 fights. I don't expect him to have 3 or 4 fights before he has a major step up. It wouldn't shock me if his major step up was the next fight.
And he's still a major name as well. He's still a recognisable name. The papers got on board without hesitation. I mean, look at the media that was being pumped out. People know him. The media knows him. He's still a name regardless of how long he's been out.
Yeah. Now, I dare say some of these Twitter questions will cover David Haye, so we'll end it there and we'll just jump on. And obviously the first question does relate to the heavyweights in the UK. The first question is in for Team Beefy at Tony Nelson FTC. Steve, out of the 3 heavyweights in Britain, what is the biggest fight that can be made?
I would say at the moment probably Fury Joshua. I'd say Fury Joshua is the biggest, but then you could alternate them. But, it depends on what happens over the next few months or whatever. But they're 3 huge names, recognisable by the public. We don't know if they're going to drop belts, lose belts, but if they fought each other and they're all on winning streaks at these stages of their careers, then you could interchange them and it'd be a huge fight. I possibly Fury Joshua at the moment, but if Haye gets a few recognisable wins, then you could easily throw him in as well. It's exciting times regardless of what you think of a lot of them.
The best fight, I think, is Haye Fury, but the biggest fight, I would say, is... It depends how much you weigh up what a world title means to the casuals, doesn't it? I mean, Anthony Joshua going for his world title shot against a man that's, pretty much universally hated by the casuals in Tyson Fury. I think, obviously quite a big fight in, with the world titles, but the David Haye Joshua fight is huge by itself, as we've said, because they're both all these household names now. It's a difficult one in terms of biggest, but obviously best fight is Haye versus Fury.
He also goes on and asks here as well about I think they would all do Wembley, but not sure which one would be the biggest. I didn't really know what this fascination with fucking Wembley is, man. I mean, no, every fight can sell out 80, 90,000 tickets and stuff. As Coogan probably said a couple of weeks back, they got really lucky with the fucking fact is that Groves Froch fight ended the way it did and that, because it was one of those fights where very seldom did I get up in the morning. The first thing I think about was a fight that happened the night before and that, but it was the first thing in my mind when I woke up. So it had that fucking bit of public interest in it as well. I just don't think. Oh, you don't know though.
Yeah,
Mickey,
stadiums aren't givens, are they? And I mean, people talk these days as if, oh, this could be a stadium, that could be a stadium. It's bloody hard to fill a stadium. I think a lot of the thing was about the second Groves fight. It's been done to death, obviously,
yeah.
because of the intrigue and the narrative on the first fight. If people are filling out stadiums, then good luck to them, because it's not easy.
Adam, Mickey D's asking, what would the panel's top 10 heavyweights now look like?
I'd have Adonis Stevenson at 5. Right, top 10 heavyweights.
You want me to have a stab first?
Right, Fury. Followed by, well, obviously AJ's undisputed number 1 for me. And then everything below him. No, I don't know. I'm not big up on ratings, I'm terrible on ratings. But
I'll go
throw some names out there.
Right, I'll go in order. I'll go Fury, Klitschko, a toss up between Wilder and Povetkin. I'll go Wilder. Just simple fact is he's knocking people out. Even though his opponents are shit, it still takes a bit to knock out your opponents. Povetkin 4. Probably Ortiz sitting about number 5.
King Kong.
Aye. Now this is where it gets kind of bothering now. Now you could probably toss up. I would put Joshua somewhere in the top 10, maybe 8 or something like that. Maybe Bryant Jennings in there. Maybe Takam.
Yeah.
Pulev, maybe that'll be a fucking push probably, but Pulev.
If Pulev gets active, I think he's got a lot to offer.
Stavern, no, I don't think so. I don't think he's fought since, or maybe he's just fought once since he fought Wilder.
Yeah, that's not enough.
Don't know about Andy.
Charlie Martin?
No, I don't know yet. I mean, no, he's got a title, but you couldn't put him in the top 10. Parker, no top 10. Andy Ruiz, no, definitely no top 10. So it's really, I think.
Andy, say the words. Say the words, AJ. You want to.
No, I was saying AJ top 10. I'm saying AJ top 10. I just don't know where, because I think after you get the rank of 5 and 6 and stuff, I think it's interchangeable. And for instance, if you go to some places, you probably see the likes of maybe Glasgow in the top fucking 10, which I have seen, by the way. And then you fucking see Morier ranked as well in the top 10. So you just, so I'll probably say top 6 is that. So if you can try and fill it up, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with your top 5. I say Fury, Klitschko, probably Wilder, Povetkin, Ortiz. But after that, you've got guys in there by virtue of the fact that they've beaten half-decent names or been beaten by half-decent names. The likes of Pulevs, your Steverns, your Takams, your Jenningses. Even you could say, they're all coming off losses, or they're all on the downward slope or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, it's that week that you've got to sort of chuck these guys in and around there. I think Pulev, Takam, like you say, 5 and 6 maybe. Glasgow would have been in and around the top 8, but he's just lost. So you've got to push the likes of Joshua in there. Parker, I don't think so, but he's knocking on the door. But yeah, I think Takam's a good shape for just on the outskirts. But the top 5 is pretty solid, but after that, it's pretty weak.
Yeah, definitely. I think you'll say it's interchangeable. Alex, Mike Caulfield's asking, do you think the heavyweight title being fragmented is a good thing at present? Don't see one heavyweight dominating for a length of time.
I've been trying to weigh this up in my head because I've been thinking about it. Obviously there was a lot of criticism and complaint when Vlad was the champion, because it created this dynamic of everyone was just gearing towards getting that Vlad fight, getting their payday, and then fucking off to use that as a selling point that I went 12 rounds with Vlad. I fought Vlad. I'm a bigger name than you now, and now it's is obviously a lot different because they're all hunting for the belts and they're all scrambling for the belts almost. I think, Charles Martin's got a massive fucking target on his head now. I think that even Wilder to a degree has got a bit of a target on his head, but he's got the promotional backing. I suppose Martin does as well. But now I just think what's going to happen is they're all just going to keep their belts and they're going to keep them separate. I think especially if we end up in a situation where different promoters are behind the belts, I think that it's just going to keep them apart, and I think that we're going to suffer because there's not going to be that many unifications. There's not going to be any incentive for unifications, I don't think, because why would they? They make more money holding one belt than they do two or three. There's no point, and especially the risk involved because there are so many good fighters, as we've just pointed out. I think in the top 5, top 6, maybe there are some quality fighters, and once they get the belts, they're not going to want to unify, I don't think, and just make as much money as they can off them, which is obviously a sad thing. But I think it makes better fights in the build-up to getting these titles. I think that the process of winning eliminators, etc., is probably going to create some better fights, but at world level, I think it's going to be a bit sparse.
Yeah. Paul, Jordan Singleton's asked a specific question to yourself. He says, why did Paul block me for making a harmless joke about him being a Rican and taking a knee when he deactivated?
Did I block Jordan Singleton? Okay. Well, if he'd have asked nicer, I might have blocked him, but I'll keep him double blocked now.
Who's Jordan Singleton?
Not a clue.
One of our loyal listeners. See, you didn't talk to the fans and the listeners of this show.
Is he a loyal listener?
Is that?
If he's a loyal listener and he's listening now and puts something in the chat in the next 5 minutes, I'll unblock him.
I see that.
What an incentive!
Steve laying down terms, man. Paul laying down terms. Fucking Floyd Mayweather. Fucking attitude there. Next question. Adam Paul Edwards asks, what, if anything, have we learned from last night's 3 heavyweight fights?
Well, we didn't learn anything from the Glasgow fight, really. We didn't learn anything from Haye, and we learned from Wilder. We're continuing to learn from Wilder that he's not as good as what some people think. That's it, really. We didn't learn anything new. We just reaffirmed what we already knew. We already knew Mark de Morier was crap. We already knew both Charles Martin and Glasgow were crap, and we knew that Wilder ain't as good as he thinks he is.
Paul Daniel Stone asks, how many rounds does Froch win against Sir Joe?
Oh, don't do this.
I think.
Before you answer, Paul, sorry to interrupt you there, mate. Adam, I want your thoughts on my wee, my couple of pictures I was posting up on Friday night.
I was disgusted. I mean, what? It's so disappointing. Just take the man for what he is. He ain't the best boxer in the world. He's not said he's the best boxer in the world, but he had a fantastic career, and I love him.
I think to answer your question, I think by Froch's own admission, I think in his heart of hearts, I think he knows he'd probably only win 2 or 3 rounds. His game plan wouldn't be to try and outpoint Calzaghe because he's physically not capable of it. I think he'd just try and knock him out, and he wouldn't because Sergio is TBE UK and Carl Froch is Sergio Shadow.
There you go. Alex, Emily Rogerson asks, has Haye lost his best attribute, which is his speed? Coming in 17 pounds heavier against the elite fighters, he will get found out. Remember last night, mate, he was a legit 230 pounds, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I thought that was quite funny when they kept saying that he was a legit 230 pounds. It reminded me of Anthony Joshua's dad saying he's not on steroids. He's definitely not on steroids. It's just, I mean, Haye looked fucking huge last night, didn't he? To be fair to him, I mean, he's always been quite bulky, quite built, I think, but he's always had the speed, as Emily
pounding
said.
those weights.
But doing a bit of cycling as well, I think. But
it's always good for you, mate. Get up and down those hills.
Yeah, he looks fucking massive, doesn't he? He's obviously, I think, he's getting old. He's 35 now, isn't he? Again, that's a point.
So he's putting on natural weight, do you think?
Well, and a bit of unnatural weight, but he's getting bigger. He's realizing that he has got that power, and he's just focusing on it. You remember the which I think it's Rocky 6, where all Rocky does is he's slow as fuck now. He hasn't got any footwork, so all he does is focus on getting powerful as fuck, and he does a load of weights, and I think that's what David Haye's doing. And you know, fair play, he's got the power, and he's just going to try and fucking use it. I still think that he's probably faster than a lot of other heavyweights out there. So, and he's got the technical ability and still probably part of the footwork. So, crack on.
Cracking on with the next question. Steve, Jimmy Patterson asks, when will Froch upload a topless picture of himself captioned "Too big and too strong for Tyson Fury"?
After he's won 8 rounds against Joe Calzaghe.
Evacuated bowels, exit centre.
Leave Paul Carl alone. He's no longer with us.
Adam Darren Parsons, if Fury touched Froch, would Adam Smith unleash his fists and lay Fury out for touching his co-worker?
Well, yeah, I thought he was talking about me, Adam Smith. Then, no, absolutely not. He would run a mile. I want to know what actually happened last night. I think it was Mike Coppinger that was reporting Froch. Fury's now gone after
He's a knob,
Froch.
by the way.
I don't know what that means.
Well, apparently,
You don't know what knob means.
Apparently, what happened was, well, this is just what I've read on Twitter, but apparently Froch was saying that Fury should stop being a bit of a knobhead and causing the WWE antics in the ring and embarrassing British fighters or something along those lines, or maybe just. I think Froch has been a bit of a knob to him in the past in the press and etc. So I think maybe, obviously, Fury had a few, and he saw him and he probably started mouthing off, which is brilliant.
Yeah,
I would have fucking loved to have seen that.
According to Coppinger, he was helping himself behind a bar and that. With a bottle of vodka, apparently. I've seen him hanging about with some Polish fans and that as well. He was quite enjoying the attention and stuff.
I saw that during the Martin fight. He was in the. You could see him in like the camera view, and he was just standing up, getting a load of fucking pictures taken while the fight was on.
Well, there was plenty of opportunity for a fallout last night. I mean, we had Chisora, Fury in the same room, Wilder, Iron Mike, Lennox Lewis, who I think Fury said stuff about before, Froch. I mean, anything could have happened last night.
Would have been good if Povetkin had climbed into the ring whenever Wilder and Fury were there, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
Carl Stones asks Paul, name all the fighters outside the heavyweight division that would beat Charles Martin if they fought next week.
Outside the heavyweight division, again, it's difficult because we just don't know about Charles.
Bellew.
Yeah, about Bellew and Creed would both do a number on him. It's difficult because we just don't know enough about him. Like I say, I mean, there are some cruiserweights who you legitimately look at that heavyweight division right now and think if they stepped up, they may have a shot. But we say that, like, yeah, the likes of Usyk, but we say that. But some of these heavyweights are monsters, you know, like 6'6", 6'9" in some cases. These are big boys, and as much as the quality may be lacking, you can't get around that size and strength at times. And I think the idea of a Roy Jones-esque move through the weights up to heavyweight, I think there's very few fighters capable. People talk about Sergei Kovalev. I don't think he has the size to live at heavyweight. I think that's laughable, but people do suggest that. At cruiserweight, obviously there are some big some big fighters, Drod, like you say, Usyk, who could probably fill out to a heavyweight frame and could probably easily clear 200 pounds. But I don't know, would they beat Martin? Hard to say, really.
Martin's a big lump.
Yeah. Journeyman at Jamaica asks Alex, 16,000 with a shit undercard versus the Morier in partnership with the O2 genius business move by David Haye in terms of negotiations with Eddie Hearn.
Well, yeah, I sort of mentioned that earlier. You know, does it make it easier or does it make it more difficult to negotiate that fight? It's certainly going to make his negotiation standpoint a lot better. He's going to make a lot more money from it, I think, now that he's proven that he can fight a bag of shite and, you know, still sell out. So
bag of shite and mixed with spunk, mate. That's how you put it.
So
On a fishing rod.
On a fishing rod, yeah. Yeah, pretty much. It's just making it probably harder, but better for Haye in the long run because he's going to get more money out of it, and he's going to be the one probably calling the shots.
Steve, Matt at Boxing Addict asks, ideally for each panel member, put together your greatest of all time commentary team consisting of one lead commentator and 2 analysts.
Right, let me think. I'm a big Ian Darke fan, so I'd have him on commentary for a start. Paul Dempsey didn't have his finest time last night. He needed to sharpen the tools a bit, but it was good to see Paul back. He was a bit of a retro face of Sky Sports and Setanta boxing, so but I'm not going to put him on the panel. The late Gary Mason, I don't know if anybody remembers him. He used to shoot from the hip and say what he thought, which was quite funny, so I'd chuck him on. I say Reg Gutteridge, but he's the commentator. So
always used to like listening to Gil Clancy at times, actually. So some of the older
old
fights.
school there.
Yeah, a bit old school there. I like the guy for novelty value who does the Showtime. Is it Mauro Ranallo?
He's
like that.
He's awful, man. I hear he's going to WWE at some point.
Yeah, no, I'm only joking.
Yeah, he is awful, but
I tell you, I quite like. I've seen him do a few cards in the past. He's actually Robin Reed, bit of a strange one, but I like the way he breaks the fights down. I always like the guys who sort of say things and you think to yourself, oh yeah, I never thought about that, or they come off with a little bit of technical analysis or a bit of know-how of a former fighter. Sometimes it doesn't have to be the biggest name or the biggest guy to come off with something, you know, that you're happy to listen to. So,
well, Macklin's quite good for that.
Yeah,
Macklin's good. Paulie's okay if he just keeps that fucking, you know, that voice and
I
shit.
like
It
Paulie.
doesn't raise it.
Paulie on as the third man is quite good. I think that mine would probably be Ian Darke doing the lead, and Bernstein and Paulie on.
Nobody putting up Gutridge or Carpenter or anything like that. Guys,
no, because we're not 55 years old like you.
No, I mentioned Gutteridge, Andy. But honourable mention to Reggie was good. He used to tell these little stories during the fight. He was a bit like me. He used to just go on off on random bullshit rants and stuff.
Right.
I think Froch, McCrory, and BJ Flores, the dream team.
BJ Flores on the snort. Hey, Christopher Leaks asks Paul, how long will it be until one of these horrendous mismatches causes a serious injury or worse? We spoke about this last year actually after Quillen fucking knocked out Zarafa.
We did, and sometimes I think that boxing fans and reporters can go right to the extreme and say, you know, this is going to get somebody killed. But do you know what? And I used to annoy me a little bit. I was like, okay, it's a little bit over the top, but this is, if someone gets killed or severely injured in a well-matched fight, part of you has to say, okay, that's the risk of the sport, you know, it can happen. If someone gets severely injured or killed in the kind of fight that we saw last night, or the Quillen Zarafas of this world, then to me, that's a huge black eye for the sport, because you're putting fighters in a position where they have very minimal chance of success, and the chance of them being beaten, not on points, but being resoundingly knocked unconscious is incredibly high. And I think that as much as fighters won't ever admit to being scared, I think Morier was scared after about a minute of that fight. He just he was waiting for the inevitable. And will someone, with the way the medical system is, especially in the UK, how fast they are at getting people out the ring, and you know, it's not like the Wild West days of 15 rounds and doctors not pulling fighters out despite half their eye hanging off. I don't think we'll see it over here, and hopefully we don't. I think it's possible in America, but I just think this notion of any time you see a main event involving a top 10 or a top 15 guy, and he's 100 to 1 on to win, and he's fighting someone who's never been close to that level, you always run the risk. And we've had some severe injuries in the States the last couple of years in well-matched fights, but I say it's an accident waiting to happen. I hope it never ever does, but I certainly wouldn't be surprised. And it'd be the promoters and the TV channels and the sanctioning bodies more than the fighters who would have blood on their hands with it.
Adam Michael Garrett asks, whilst I remember, do you want to see the return of Prizefighter in 2016? And your answer better be to my satisfaction here, mate.
The answer is no, thank you. I was never a fan of it anyway. Just you know, there's such a draw bias, i.e. if you know, fight in the top half, and then they try to put the a normal fight, shall we say, in between the semis and the final, but some of them were stinkers. Kawiafa in a stinker, and that just made the night even worse. I've never ever sat and watched a prize fighter from start to finish, and I don't intend to ever do so.
Adam, if not Prizefighter, then we saw the Channel 5 tournament. Do you think there's room in the sport for a little gimmicky game show type of tournament like a Prizefighter? If it's not going to be
that Channel 5 thing was bloody brilliant. That wasn't gimmicky. That was just six fighters or 6 or 8 fighters that weren't signed to Sky basically fighting it out, and it turned out to be pretty good. Sky won't do anything if they don't do Prizefighter, which obviously looks like they're not going to do anymore. They won't do anything in place of it. I don't think it's necessary.
They're too busy working on pay-per-view events. That's what's happening there. They're too busy with pay-per-view.
We need another Prizefighter. We need to decide who is the ultimate king of Prizefighter.
Yeah, we need to get Audley back to try
for
and
Audley and Sprott. They both won 2. Who's the ultimate champion? It needs to happen. Exactly.
Right, I've got one last question, and I think Steve's got some questions as well. Chad Hogan, aka Brian King, asks: is Liam Smith a worse champion than Charles Martin? Is Glasgow better than Thompson and Kelly?
That's
I don't know.
I wouldn't rate either of them in the top 15.
Yeah, I think the problem you've got is that you can at least say that Charles Martin was matched against, in theory, an evenly ranked opponent, or very close to, what was it, number 2 and number 3, or 1 and 3, whatever it was. You can't say that about Liam Smith. I mean, Thompson, he was in the rankings, but it's the poor. Both of them are world champions because of the alphabet soup, and that's the only way you can put on it. And both of them have a chance to prove that they should be world champions.
Liam Smith's done well domestically. He's British title. He's had a good few wins there, but world level, he's nothing to be seen there. And Charles Martin, they don't really have that sort of domestic scene in the States of winning the US title or whatever having any significance. So I think that he obviously beat in quotation marks Glasgow in that way, and that's obviously a great win. But again, it's just a bit shit.
With Liam Smith, that we could have swallowed the fight where he won if his second fight was half decent, but his second fight was equally as rubbish. So, he doesn't fill any fans with confidence, especially us.
Steve, I think you had a couple of questions on the Facebook page. Yes,
we've already gone through the one from Rory Paddock. Thanks, Rory. This one's for you, Andrew, from Wes Shaw. Andrew. It's a heavyweight themed question. I have to make sure he's listening. I have to make sure you're listening now. What's next for Anthony Joshua? Who do the panel think will be AJ's April opponent? I've got to believe it will be a fighter coming off a win that is a native English speaker to build hype at the press conferences and the gloves are off. Any ideas on any names, Andy?
English speaker coming off a win.
Chisora?
Nah, I think he'll go for the European title, mate, and then they'll make the Joshua fight for there. Fuck, I don't know. Andy Ruiz? Probably no.
What about the winner of Sprott versus Harrison in Shot Fighter, the final, and then they can fight him?
Fres Oquendo, Shannon Briggs. Shannon Briggs has come off a few wins.
Let's go, champ!
He would probably fail a drugs test, though. But, nah, I mean, even Oquendo hasn't fought since July 2014, so, nah, I don't know, mate. I really don't know. I don't think it'll be anybody decent anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Wes.
Anybody else, Adam?
No, I'm not. We're just not confident. It should be someone half decent now, but none of us are confident, and that's half the problem. That they can deliver crap, and we expect crap, so we don't even act surprised anymore. Chisora would make sense, but Chisora's going to go the European title route. I don't know. Honestly, don't know, and it don't really matter at this stage, to be honest, does it? It should matter, but it doesn't.
Excellent stuff, lads. I invite Wes to tell us who he thinks the opponent should be on the Facebook page. And everyone else, go to our Facebook page and like it while you're at it. Thank you.
Right. Just before we do get to Belly of the Week, actually, I just want to go through some news here. Wilder's just confirmed again that he will not fight in Russia, which, again, I can probably understand. But it will be interesting, actually, if Rubinski wins that purse bid over Heyman. Fuck. The other thing is, as well, Arthur Abraham's promoters, Team Sutherland, actually beat Top Rank in the purse bids for the Gilberto Ramirez fight for WBO mandatory. I think the winning bid was 1.563 million. I think Top Rank had bid just under, or just over, sorry, 1.5 million. So Sutherland won the bid by about $63,000. So anybody think that fight will maybe happen in Germany? I think Top Rank would let him travel. I mean, let Crawford travel to Scotland.
No, they've said that they want him, even though which is really weird why Sauerland won the bid, because Sauerland had even said after doing it that they would be happy. They'd be happy to explore options in America. It seems quite a strange one for them. I think they've got to be seen to be protecting Arthur's assets, but yeah, it just made sense to let Top Rank win the bid and go to America. That's obviously been the plan. I think that Sauerland are struggling in Germany where they weren't before. I think that Abraham, it's not an unwinnable fight for him. It's a decent matchup, so why not take him to the States and give his career another little jump of life fighting over there?
Right. Belly of the Week is back, first time this year, and I've been working feverishly in the background during this podcast to get up some nominations, and I've got 7 compared to the 4 before we started. Now, first one goes to Angel Garcia. Well, quite a few people were saying they had it sewn up for this comment, actually, on the fact that it is Thurman against Porter, which, by the way, we're talking about this fight potentially happening in March. Was it March 13th? I think I seen Sean Porter mention that last night. So good.
12th, was it? I think.
12th of March. So either way, actually, it's good to get that fight finally on, because it seems like that fight's been getting discussed for fucking years.
And with Pedrosa Steven Smith on the undercard, I heard they were talking about.
Fucking great. So Garcia stays basically on the Thurman Porter fight. Why fight each other when they could fight a guy like Rod Salka? Sums up the fucking boxing just now. Ex-millionaire boxer Sweet Pea Pernell Whitaker saying about evicting his mother from a basement flat that he owned was a beautiful moment. The hate must run deep there, like she must have abused him as a fucking kid. Now, Sky Sports news website, now you know how these guys like to kind of really bastardise some of their articles. They were doing a bit on Scott Quigg basically, and they says here, Quigg took out Sergio Martinez in 2 rounds in a clinical display, but Frampton will have learned from that, and I'm sure he will change his tactics just because it will be over early. If it's a war, the best 3 rounds like Tommy Hearns and Marvin Hagler, you watch that every day of your life. Okay. Now, I'll no bother with this one because I think I've confirmed that this guy's a troll, so I won't bother putting this one out. But number 5 will become the new 4. Shane Mosley saying it's Hayeday today. If you don't have a ticket to the comeback of the century and you live in the UK, then you're just not a real boxing fan. Next one goes to Carol Froch, simply for ducking Tyson Fury and getting his running shoes on last night.
Oh, behave.
Fucking behave. And the other one goes to, well, final nomination that I've got goes to Anders Fanfara. This guy's a total wingman in every sense of the word. Comforts the ladies. It doesn't matter where they are, Good to see he's there comforting Spilka's missus there last night in the hospital as well. So the man's obviously a Lothario of the highest degree. And that's all I've got this week.
What about the WBC?
Who? Oh, aye.
WBC
Shower of wankers.
Champion of the year.
Just for that. WBC actually put up a nomination, got a nomination for saying that Gennady Golovkin and Canelo, it was too hard to choose, but both are our champions of 2015. Right? One doesn't even hold the regular title of the fucking WBC. Talk about just curry flavour and just just keep them sweet at all times. You can't fuck off Canelo, You've got to keep him there. Got to keep him sweet. Wankers.
Fuck's sake.
What else we got?
Yeah, I've got a few. Do you know Reynold Garrido, the guy who beat Bradley Saunders last year? Pretty
Yes,
much the
headbutt
biggest
gate.
upset. Yes, yeah, he pretty much biggest upset of the year. Statistically on the odds. Well, he got into a fight. I think it was for a French title or some sort of fight title. Again, against as a journeyman coming up just to basically lose. And he got into this. I can't remember the guy he was fighting, but I think it was in Spain actually. But after the fight, it went to points, and I think he thought he won the fight. They were about to they announced the winner, and obviously they announced the other guy that won. And Garrido, absolutely raging, I don't know if you've all seen the gif of it, ran across the ring and started punching the fuck out of like the corner post, like fucking raging, just like smashing the shit out of it. And he starts flipping off the crowd. And I think he starts grabbing his balls and pointing at the ref, going absolutely mental. The guy's a fucking lunatic.
What else we got?
Hero of the week.
Oh yeah, he's a legend. I fucking love him. Box Nation did a poll, I think yesterday or today, earlier they were asking who's the best lightweight.
I've seen this. I voted on it.
Yeah, Terry Flanagan, Derry Matthews, Anthony Crolla, or other. And Anthony Crolla started winning this poll by, at least 50%, I think, of people voted for Anthony Crolla. And Box Nation obviously started going to a bit of damage control about this, and they said, remember, they posted a reply to their own poll and saying, remember, Derry Matthews knocked out and had a draw with Anthony Crolla back in blah, blah, blah.
Not back £500,000 for a
yeah, and he also knocked back loads of money to fight Terry Flanagan or Derry Matthews. They were really sort of trying to sell the fact that Anthony Crolla is obviously not as good as their fighters, which is obviously just completely embarrassing.
Paul, Steve, you've got anything?
Yeah, I'm just going to throw one in for David Haye. I'm sure he came up with a succession of values last night, but when he was talking about the Tyson Fury fight, Dempsey alluded to the pullouts, and Haye sort of grinned and stood back and says, "We all know why he doesn't want to fight me." And I'm thinking, yeah, because of the fact that he can't trust you to actually turn up for a fight, maybe, David. But the crowd seemed to enjoy that one anyway, but I wasn't too keen on that.
Nothing from Paul?
No, mate, nothing this week. BJ Flores' hair.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. I think. Mark Demore talking about himself. He's talking about his boxing, and he goes, "I have a very basic style of boxing." I thought that was
No
quite
shit.
funny.
No shit. So, nominations are Angel Garcia, Sweet Pea Whitaker, Sky Sports News website, WBC, Shane Mosley, Carol Froch, Andres Fanfara, Garrido, Box Nation. Adam, who gets your vote?
WBC this week.
Alex? Alex, are you there?
It's either between Sweet Pea or WBC for me. I'm gonna go Sweet Pea.
Yeah, that's just evil and extreme. Paul?
Box Nation for a classic case of throwing the toys out when it didn't go their way, and just saying, please, no, you're getting it wrong. Even though you're deciding, public, what we want is right. Oh, we'll just delete it then. So, Box Nation.
Box Nation. Steve?
Strong lineup this week, but it has to be Mr. Garcia and Angel Garcia for me. And the fact that he was he thought everyone was misunderstanding him, and he was trying to, no, let me explain. But even his explanation wasn't cutting any ice. So I think it's got to be Garcia. It's just despicable what he was coming off with.
Yeah, I've got to say the same, because so that means it's a winning vote for Angel Garcia. It's an abomination. It basically tells its own story as to where we are in the sport just now. And some people like to defend it while complaining about us for moaning and complaining about it. So Angel Garcia, congratulations for keeping the narrative going and letting us know what's really going on in the sport. Congratulations, you're a Billy Week Award winner. Now, I think Paul's dying, so Paul, if you want to fuck off, mate, it's entirely up to yourself. If you're not fit, if you want to fucking pull a Miguel Cotto on us, it's entirely up to you, mate.
Pray for Paul.
Cheers, Paul.
No bite.
Paul's dead.
Oh, he's hanging around. He's going to stay with us. Right, what we're running. It's going to be a short podcast this week by the looks of it, but a couple of fights to discuss for next week. Well, one fight, I suppose. But the schedule is next Friday. We'll see the British featherweight title for grabs. Ryan Walsh, I believe, defends his title against Darren Traynor, and Amit Patterson faces off against Ryan Ashton for the vacant IBF Bobo for super welterweight. It'll be live on Box Nation. And then next week sees Danny Garcia face off against Robert Guerrero for the vacant WBC welterweight title that Floyd vacated. And it also sees Sammy Vasquez against Aaron Martinez in some sort of elimination fight to try and get a mandatory challenger for the winner of the Garcia Guerrero fight. Now Martinez, you probably remember, was the guy who ran Guerrero close in his last fight actually. I think some people even said after that fight that Guerrero was finished, he was shot. That being the case, if he's that done and he's that finished, the guy who has actually lost what since 2013, he's went 2-2. He really like kind of was a really warfare against Kamagai, and then as I say again that he was down again against Martinez, got dropped badly again against Thurman. So that being the case, should he be fighting for a vacant world title? No's the answer. More at the point, should Danny Garcia be fighting for a vacant world title? No. Who the fuck's he fought and beat recently? Lamont Peterson? Was that a fight at 147? No. But no, I'm expecting Garcia to win this fight, but I'd imagine Guerrero's going to do his best, put it on him and stuff. I had expected the shit talk to actually be way better than this actual fight itself, but give me a take, guys. This is going to be obviously the main talking point for next week's show for like 10 minutes probably, so give me a take on it. Shite.
Well, yeah, it's just the clear example of the trajectory that Danny Garcia's career is taking. Obviously, his father has laid out the plan, and we don't expect anything more or anything less. That's doing a slight disservice to Guerrero. He's been a good fighter over the years. Very tough guy. Starting to take a few too many punches for my liking. Still a name. Get himself on network TV, but he's very much the opponent now. He's a multiple belt holder. He's really availed of the belt system over the years. Guerrero, he can call himself like a 7-time world champion or something, but he really has gone through the belts, and he's seen better days. I expect Garcia to win, but Garcia's just taken a step down, and I don't know what's going on with him. The fact that Guerrero's a southpaw could cause him problems. Guerrero's a rough and tough guy. You know, we could see the heads going in on the inside. Garcia gets a few gift decisions against Herrera and Peterson. I thought it was quite a close fight as well. It's a decent fight, but Garcia really should be maybe fighting Khan in a rematch or something higher than a Guerrero. And as for the undercard, this guy Martinez, I quite like him. I remember him he got knocked out by Lopez, I think, who fought Maidana and Alvarez at the time, Josecito Lopez, and I didn't think he was anything great, but then he beat Devin Alexander in his last fight, so he's obviously a decent guy, and he's going to put up a decent test against Sammy Vasquez. I'm not completely sold on Vasquez, although I've only seen one of his fights, but that's actually a decent undercard fight. I'll give the PBC their due. And the main event is okay, but I just want to see Garcia in better fights, but we've pretty much been told that's not going to happen, so take it for what it is, and it's a reasonable weekend's boxing.
So we've lost Paul, he's quit on us, so Alex and Adam, just I'll let you finish off, and then that'll be it for this week.
I'm not too offended by the fact that it's for the WBC title. Maybe that's because I'm just sick of the rubbish and I'm just becoming used to it, but you know, Danny Garcia, Guerrero is losing too many fights. As Steve said, he's getting hit too much. I like Danny Garcia, and he should be in the pound for pound list really. But the way that he's wasted away,
fuck off, should he be?
2 years. I wouldn't put him in there. I'm not saying I'll put him in there, but he should be with the talent that he's got. He's undefeated, but he's wasted 2 years. I like him. I like him as a fighter. I thought he was quite underrated, but obviously he's gone on to fight some absolute ramble, courtesy of Mr. Heyman. And as a result, should not be in the conversation.
He fought Herrera and he fought Peterson, and he lost both of them in my eyes. So, you know, yeah, he fought fucking Rod Salko. That was fucking garbage, and you know that was a complete waste of his career. But the Peterson fight was obviously quite significant at the time, and I thought he lost that. I'm
just losing interest in him because he can't decide what weight he's fighting at, and then you know, and then they throw a Rod Salka in there. It's just he's another one similar to Leo Santa Cruz before the Mares fight that I just lost complete interest in.
You can tell by my lack of excitement, I'm not really feeling it for next week. And as I
No,
say,
I mean,
I don't know. I'm like you, Alex. I'm starting to get a bit fucking wary now. Actually, just there's nothing been announced so far for the PBC. I mean, I think this fight next week's the only one they've got so far. We'll maybe get Thurman Porter. I'm kind of hopeful about this. Khan's still going about with no fucking opponent.
well, I've heard in regards to Porter Thurman, some people are speculating that Thurman is actually trying to wind his contract down with
Yeah, I heard
Heyman,
this as well. Yeah.
and he's just basically stalling as much as possible because Porter went to New York last night to essentially, I think what he thought was to promote the Thurman fight. He was going there for like press conferences to announce the fight. Thurman didn't even show up. Thurman wasn't even there, and they can't agree, I think, on where it's going to be held or something. I think they've agreed in principle to fight, but not where it's going to be held. And I think that maybe Thurman is literally just winding his contract down. He's maybe sick of being with Heyman.
Is his contract time limited or fight limited?
Well, probably time limited if that's the case.
Yeah.
Maybe or because he's obviously just maybe winding it down because he's either trying to duck Porter or maybe he just doesn't want to fight for Heyman anymore. Maybe he wants to get better offers from Aram or Golden Boy or something.
Yeah, the thing is, I think I'm purely speculating here, but you listen to Thurman the way he speaks to them. I actually think he actually wants some of the bigger fighters, some of the bigger names, rather than just if I can, put up with like say your Robert Guerreros and stuff like that, and your Leonard Bundu's guys. Well, Bundu's a good fighter. I'm not saying he's crap and stuff, but his time probably came and went. He didn't really know it. Guerrero, okay, he boxed pretty well, but again, Guerrero was like relevant, in his prime 2-3 years ago and stuff. So, no, I think Porter would be a good fight. I like you see Thurman and McCann, Brook even, just someone in the top 5, top 6 of that division. I mean, we know the Pacquiao fight isn't going to happen for any time soon if Pac retires and that. So, who knows?
Do we think then if Thurman's seeing his contract down, does he think that he should have been fighting Porter before, whenever he was fighting Guerrero, whether he's fighting Collazo? I mean, is that why he's letting the contract run down? Because theoretically, if he's fighting Porter and then he could go on to fight Brono, he could go on to fight Errol Spence, and there are options there.
Yeah, it is annoying as well because just think about the push that Al Heyman or his people have gave age-ridden, no-problem cloner over the years, right? And they don't give it a guy who, like Keith Thurman, for instance, all intents and purposes, okay, he's maybe not the fucking next big thing in boxing, but at least he seems to live the life. At least he's got a wee bit of charisma about him. He's not going about shagging whores on cameras and fucking getting lifted in bars and having to get
that we know of.
Yeah, having to get his wages and that, or his purse, of a percentage of his purse, sent to him early because he's got debts to pay off and stuff like that. Why not give that guy the push? The guy who's the more professional, the guy who's got a wee bit of charisma, the guy who can talk a bit better. Instead of like, yo motherfuckers and all this shit that this fucking walking abortion fucking seems to do all the time, But
well, that's why he gets opportunities. If he'd have kept his gob shut, he'd have probably been chucked out a long time ago. But he's, it's just the persona that he has taken on. So,
yeah,
I suppose maybe Thurman could do with a bit of shit talk.
Anything else, guys?
Thinking about that, Guerrero, as you said, his prime wasn't even at welterweight. His prime was sort of featherweight, and I really enjoyed that performance against Katsidas. I thought that was an excellent win for him at the time.
Yeah.
But it's just really like you mentioned, Andy. I've just become a bit disillusioned with the sport. Maybe it's just because there's been a bit of a lull, and we're getting over the absolute shite fest that was 2015, and it doesn't look like we're getting any closer to the big fights that we wanted. We're finally getting Frampton Quigg in how many other weeks it is? 5 weeks now, is it? 5 or 6 years?
3 years it's taken us to get that.
Yeah, how long's that taken? We're still waiting on Kovalev Stevenson. We're being told that Golovkin Canelo's being fucking postponed. We're being told that Wilder Povetkin. We're being very cynical about that. We're being Haye Joshua and Haye Fury. Those fights ain't gonna happen this year. It just winds you up a bit, I think. And you want to. I mean, we finally had Pacquiao Floyd, and God knows how many years that took for us to get. It's just we get the fights eventually, but how much shit do we have to put up with in the interim? And it just drags on. And you think, is it worth it? Is it worth it? And I mean, obviously it is, because we're still fucking here, still talking about it and moaning about it. But hopefully we can be a bit more positive, and that's why we're doing the positive round, and we'll be doing it again next week, most likely about Garcia versus Guerrero.
Yep. So
Yes.
stay tuned for next week. I'd like to thank the panel this week: Steve Wellens, Paul Webb, Alex Morris, and Adam Smith. I've been your host, Andy Patterson. We'll see you next week. All the best.
Cheers.
Pray for Paul.
Kawasaki UD.